Hi children, good morning one and all. I welcome you all to today's video class. Today we are going to start with a new chapter, The Great Stone Face 1, which was written by Nathaniel and Hawthorne. You know that a man's fascination towards stone face formed by the piles of the stone on the mountain. So this story, that is the great stone face, deals with or it revolves around with fascination of a young man towards a mountain. You might have seen the huge and large mountains, and it is very much attracted to look at. This chapter has many critical mystery in it. You are going to see and taste everything. And more than that, children, this story, that is the great stone face, attracts and fascinates every reader and every children. It is so exciting to read and so surprised to understand. Let's get into this story. So long ago, there was a valley. Long ago, there was a valley. Thousands of people were living in the valley in their huts. If you go and if you visit the valley, you can see many huts and cottages there. And people were living in their huts. And the valley was surrounded by huge and high mountains. Naturally, if you look at the mountain, you can see some piles of rocks. When these rocks form a pile, or when the piles of rocks found together, they may form some figure. They may form some faces of the animals. Sometimes they may form the faces of human beings also. It's quite nature. I hope, children, you might have had this experience. If you look at steadily at the top of a mountain, you may come across these types of figures, these types of faces. That's called a stone face. Here also, in the mountain, the rocks were piled up in a way that they were looked at some distance human faces. They resembled human faces. Yeah, the piles of stone, huge stone, together form human face, form a figure on a perpendicular side of the mountain, so much so that it looks alive. So if anyone looks at the top of a mountain at some distance, they could find the stone face, that is the face, human face formed by the huge piles of the stone at the perpendicular side of the mountain. So this human face, this stone face attracts the attention of all the peoples living in the valley. And there was a small boy in the valley. His name was Ernest. He was living there with his mother. He too was attracted and fascinated by the human face or the stone face of the mountain. And everyone in the valley knew about it. And there were many stories behind such stone faces. People used to say that in future, a man, a child is going to born in the valley, and the child resembles the stone face. Okay, there were stories told and narrated by the inhabitants of that valley. So it is indeed, but actually it is indeed a piece of nature. The stone face is formed naturally by the piles of the stone. No one has gone there to form such things. One fine day, what happens? The boy, that is, he was sitting, Ernest, the boy Ernest was sitting with his mother at the doorsteps of the cottage, and both of them were gazing steadily at the great stone face. At the time, the boy's mother told him about an old prophecy, the divine statement, the statement that from the space, the statement from the God, the statement from the heaven, that is called a prophecy. There was a prophecy. What was it? It tells that on some future date, a man will be born. in the valley, who will bear the likeness, of the great stone face, who will bear the likeness, or in future a man will born whose face will look like the stone face, resembles likeness of the stone face, and he, the person, will be the greatest and the noblest of the time. So when this story was narrated to Ernst by his mother, he was very much excited. He wants to know the man who resembles the faces of the stone face, or who has bear the stone face resemblance. So Ernst expressed his desire to live to see the man. So that was a story narrated, told and retold by the people of the valley. They have a strong hope. In future, on some date in future, a man will born. Definitely the man will resemble the stone face. Since that day, when he came to know that story, the prophecy, this boy never forget about the prophecy and thought about it whenever he glanced at the valley. And more than that, Ernst was an obedient, like you, and hard-working child who helped his mother. I hope all of you help your mother children, isn't it? Yeah. And so many things are there in nature, child, to learn. If you look at a huge mountain, if you look at the small hills and hillock, you can come across these things. See, this picture, a real picture actually, this picture is the great stone face. See, here you can find the face of some human beings. Who has formed it? Only the huge piles of the rocks, on the top of the mountain, huge piles of the rocks on the top of the mountain formed this stone face. Actually, it looks like it resembles a human face. At some distance, if you look at this, you come to know, you can realize that it was a human face. Can you see this picture clearly, children? Yeah. Okay, so the people, the inhabitants of the village, the valley, who had a strong opinion, had a strong hope that beyond some date in future, a man resembles this stone face will born in the valley. Okay, so since the date onwards, the boy, he was also very much curious to know the man. He wants to see the face of the man who will going to born in that village. At that time, what happens? There was a rumor in the village. Suddenly, the people were attracted by the rumor. Generally, rumors are spread out by the people. They don't have any strong base. Without any strong base, if a message is spread out, that is generally we call as rumors. In that valley also, a rumor was spread out. What was that rumor? The son of the valley is going to appear, who resembles the face, who resembles the stone face. That was the rumor. So it excited everyone. Everyone was excited by that rumor, and everyone of that valley wants to see the face of the son of that valley. They were eagerly waiting for the day when the real man resembles the stone face is going to appear before them. Actually, seeing him, everyone except Ernst, this boy, believed that there was a man. His name was Gathergold. Actually, let me explain who was Gathergold and how he was considered as the son of the valley. Actually, Gathergold, he was considered a young man. Gathergold. Actually, Gathergold, a young man. He had left the valley many years before. he left the valley. He left the valley before many years, or many years ago. Many years ago, he left the valley. Actually, he went out to establish a business. So he had become quite a rich man there. He became a very rich man. And he decided to return to his native village, to his native valley. So there was a rumor amidst the inhabitants, the people of the valley. What was that rumor? The son of that valley will arrive soon to the valley. Soon he will be appearing before the people, before the eyes of the people. He will come to the valley and he will have the resemblance of the stone face. That was the rumor which was spread out among the people of that valley. They were so excited to see the son of that valley. Who was he? The first one believed by the people was Gather Gold. His name was Gather Gold. Long time back, long time ago, he left the valley. He went out to form a business. He wants to become a big businessman. He did business and he became a rich man, quite a rich man. Then what he decided? He decided to come back, to return to his native village, valley. There was a rumor. So these people believed that Gather Gold looked like the great stone face. People of that valley believed that Gather Gold looked like the great stone face. Gather Gold he had the face of an old man with yellow skin. He had the face of the old man he had the face of the old man with yellow skin. So he returned to the village, to the valley. Now the people believed that he was the real son of the valley, because they believed that he had the resemblance of the great stone face. Now he became very rich man. He went out a long time back to start a business. He ran business successfully and he became very rich. With that richness, now he came back to his valley. He returned to his valley. And the people considered him the image of the great stone face. Actually, people considered he was the image of the great stone face. But that boy, Ernst, gazed up the valley. He looked at the valley steadily. The stone face seemed to reject Gather Gold as its likeness. Now he gazed, he looked steadily at the stone face and he compared the resemblance of the stone face with the face of the Gather Gold. Now he realized he was not the real one. He was not the real image of the stone face. He felt that the stone face whispered to him he was not the true or the real son of the valley. So that was the greatest thing that happened. So when the people gathered and they were waiting, and when they received Gather Gold, they thought that he was the real image of the great stone face. They believed that he had the resemblance of the stone face. They thought that he was the real son of the valley. But later they came to know that he was not the real one, because he doesn't have the resemblance of the great stone face. So the people have realized now upon seeing that everyone except Ernest believed that Mr. Gather Gold bore the likeness of the great stone face. It was only after he lost all his wealth before dying that people agreed that he was not the man from the prophecy. When he died, after losing all his wealth, when he died after losing all his wealth, people believed, people agreed that he was not the man from the prophecy. So it happened. Then what happens? As Ernest was simple and he was helpful child, he grew up to be a diligent and kind man. So that boy became a diligent and kind man in his youth. Still he was excited. When he came to know that gathered gold was not the true son of the valley, he developed an attitude in his mind that he was not the original. So in future, some original will come. He thought in his mind. He used to stay unnoticed in the valley as he was very plain and simple. He was very helpful child like you. I hope you always be helpful to your parents, to your teachers, to your friends, and you are always honest. You are very curious to know the facts and figures of the nature. You want to know many things in nature. If you look at the nature, you can learn a lot. Yeah, it has many good things to teach you. Only thing, you have to passionately listen to the lessons to be taught to you by the nature. Every tree has something to teach you. Every mountain has something to teach you. Every raindrops has something to teach you. Every sea, every ocean, every chirps of the birds, insects, plants. If you look all around this nature, you can learn a lot from them. You have to, only thing you have to keep your eyes and ears open to receive the things. So Ernest stood to guess at the great stone face for hours together like you. After finishing this work for the day, he looked at the stone face, the great stone face for hours together. People thought initially that it was foolish, but later they convinced with him. He considered the stone face as his teacher. He thought that it taught him a lot. By the time he had grown up, the great stone face had become a teacher for Ernest. It made him wiser than others at his age. So he kept looking at the stone face for a long time. After finishing all his work, then people first ridiculed him, but later they realized it was nothing was wrong with him, and it is inexcusable. And more than that, the great stone face had become a good teacher for him. It made him wiser than others at his age. So the times rolled up. Sometimes later, another rumor was spread out among the people of that valley. What was the second rumor? The son of a valley, who had left to become a soldier, expressed his desire to spend his last days. Second, again another rumor. So the first son, who was considered by the people as a real image of the stone face, later they realized he was not the true image, and they realized it. Then the second one, he was also considered as a real image, and people thought he had the resemblance of the great stone face. Actually, he too, the second son of the valley. He was actually a soldier. He was a soldier. He left the village, he left the valley a long time ago. He joined the army, he became a soldier. And he expressed his desire. He too wants to come back to his valley. He expressed his desire to spend his last days peacefully in the valley where he was born. So after hard fighting, he had risen to a position, to the rank. After a long fighting, after a hard work, he has risen in his life. He became a famous commander and was known as Blood and Thunder in the battlefield. He was called as Blood and Thunder in the battlefield. He was called as Blood and Thunder in the battlefield. So there was a rumor again among the inhabitants, among the people of that valley. They thought that this time the second son of the soil is going to appear before them. Actually, he left the village a long time back. He became a soldier. he worked very hard, and out of his hard work, he was, after hard fighting, he had risen to a great rank, that is a famous commander, and he was known as blood and thunder in the battlefield. So a wild spread, a word spread across the valley. What was that rumor? That this great fighter is the man. Actually, they have been waiting for the appearance of the man. They made all preparations. They prepared themselves to welcome him, because they considered that soldier as a son of that soil, the son of that valley. So the people made up their mind to give arousing welcome to that gentleman. So they were ready to, they made every arrangements to welcome him. And people who never even thought of looking at the great stone face began spending hours together looking at it to know how blood and thunder would look. They want to know how he will look. They want to know the resemblance of that man with the great stone face. The people were so excited, and they prepared themselves physically as well as mentally to welcome such a great man. Actually, he was a soldier, but he got to the great position in the army due to his hard work. So he was considered as blood and thunder in the battlefield. So he was really considered by the people as the true son of the valley, because he had close resemblance of the great stone face. Therefore, people were so excited to see his face, and they were ready to give a arousing welcome to that man. On the day of arrival, what happened, children? Do you know? Sometimes when you are announced, when you heard an announcement that our CM or our Prime Minister visits Namakkal on so and so date, immediately you will be so excited to see him, how he is going to welcome by the people, how the peoples give protection, that is the police officials, commandos, how they give protection to the Prime Minister as well as our Chief Minister, what sort of speech he is going to give, how he is welcomed by the people. Everybody likes to know all these things when higher officials visits a particular place. In the same way, on the day of the arrival, everyone left their work early to gather at the place where the feast was organized to welcome the general. They arranged a feast also. People gathered since morning to welcome the great leader. And when people saw him, what happens? When people saw him, they shouted in joy. They claimed that he had exact same face. So when the people saw, actually the long wait, so another son of the, they thought that he was another son of the valley. Actually, he had become general by then, and the gathering mistook him, the greatest man of all time. He appeared before them. On his return, he was welcomed very warmly by the people. The gathering actually mistook him as the greatest, noblest man of all time. But Ernst failed to recognize, but that boy didn't recognize any likeness between blood and thunder and the great stone face. Yeah, but all others, but all other people, what thought in their mind, they recognized him as the noblest man and the greatest man of this soil, and they shouted in joy also. They claimed that he had the exact same face. He had the resemblance of the great stone face. At first, Ernest could not see him. But when he did, he could compare. Really, he compared the blood and thunder and the great stone face, actually, that stood beside him. He concluded that there was no such resemblance as people proclaimed. Yeah, he found out, he concluded. He turned away in great disappointment, but his heart whispered to him Fear not, son, don't fear. Fear not. Ernest, the man will come one day. So the man will come one day. His consciousness speak to him. The man will come one day. See this picture. So the second one, the second son of the valley, that is a soldier. He left the village before a long time, and he joined as a soldier. Out of his hard work, he took part in many wars. Therefore, he reached a higher position. He got a rank, and he was considered as blood and thunder in the battlefield. And he wants to spend the rest of his days in the village, in the valley where he was born. So he expressed his willingness to spend the days in the valley. When it reached the people, they were very ready to give a warm welcome to him, and people gathered to give a warm welcome to him, and they arranged for a feast also. So he reached the valley. People were so excited to give a welcome to him, and they looked at his face, and some of them could find the resemblance, that is the great stone face with the face of that soldier, that is the face of the blood and thunder. But some people failed to find the resemblance, and they come to know that he was not the true son of the valley. And Ernest, the little boy, was also one among them. He failed to find any resemblance between the face of that man and the great stone face. So he got a grace. So he was greatly disappointed. But he concluded there was no such resemblance as people proclaimed. He turned away in disappointment, but his heart whispered to him, "Fear not, Ernest, the man will come one day." So what does this story conclude? I like to give you the conclusion of this story, children. See, the first part of this great stone face is about a small boy, a little boy, that is Ernest quest, his excitement, his eagerness, and his mental preparedness to find out the man who will return one day to the valley, who resembles the great stone face. So let me sum up, children. This story was actually written by Nathaniel Hawthorne. It vividly describes about the mental attitude of a young boy who wants to know the secret of the nature. He was living in a valley with his mother, in a cottage, small cottage. There are so many cottages anyone could find in that valley. Thousands of people were living in the valley. The valley was surrounded by a huge and high mountain. At the top of the mountain, one can see the piles of the stone. They formed a figure. It looks like a human face. That is, it is generally called stone face, the great stone face. So people at some distance could find the human face on the top of the mountain. Therefore, it is generally called the great stone face. And the people, those who are living in the valley, also believed that there were some stories told and narrated by the ancestors of that valley. What was the story? On some date in future, a man will born in the village who resembles the stone face, and he will be the noblest and the greatest man of that time. That was a belief believed by the people. It was also a prophecy, a divine statement from the heaven. So the people were earnestly waiting for the arrival of such a man, the noblest man who resembles the great stone face. It happened one day. So first, a man who was considered as the son of the valley, he was called Gather Gold. He left the village, he left the valley a long time ago. He went out to start a business. He did it. He became a rich man. But he expressed his wish to return to his valley. He wants to spend his last days of his life peacefully in the village, in the valley where he was born. People were so excited to see the face of Gather Gold. They thought that he was the noblest man of the year. He was the true son of that valley. They welcomed him. They gave a warm welcome. But unfortunately, they realized he was not the true son of that valley, because he did not bear any resemblance of the great stone face. And more than that, when he went out, he became rich. But after losing all his wealth, he died as a poor man. Then people realized that he was not the true son of the soil, that valley. It was a great disappointment to them. After some times, they again another man, that is the second son of the valley. Actually, people, this time there was a rumor again, the same rumor was spread out among the people of the valley. He was actually a soldier. He also left out the valley before a long time. He became a soldier and he rose to a higher position due to his hard work and his involvement, and he was considered as blood and thunder in the battlefield. He too expressed his desire to return to his native valley for to spend his rest of the days. Therefore, he decided to come back, to return to his village. People gathered in one particular place to give a rousing welcome to that man, and they arranged for a feast also. And the boy went there to see the face of that man, and but that man also failed to bear the resemblance of the great stone face. So the people, this time also, they were greatly disappointed, because he was also not the true son of the valley. He was not considered as the noblest man. But the boy, amidst his great disappointment, his heart secretly told him, "Don't worry, son, one fine day, the true man who resembles the great stone face will appear. Till that, you have to wait." So, the first part of this story vividly narrates the attempt or the earnest quest of that boy to find the man, the true son of the valley, who will return to the valley and resembles the great stone face. Once again, I would like to show you the picture, children, and it helps you to understand. See the first picture. This is the greatest stone face which was formed by the piles of the stone on the top of the mountain. So people were so excited to see the figure or the human face formed at the stone. Therefore, it is called the greatest stone face. See, in the second picture, the people gathered and they were so much excited to see the man who will visit the valley, who left out the valley before a long time, who was really considered as the true son of that valley. He was the noblest and the greatest man of that valley. People were so excited to see his face, but there was a great disappointment. He was not considered as the true son of the valley. And then second son, they were ready to welcome. He was also later people considered he was also not the true son of the valley. Therefore, but the boy also got greatly disappointed, but still he was in a hope that one fine day the true man will be appearing before the native of that valley. Okay, thank you, children. And in the second part of this today's video class, we are going to see the poem, that is on the grasshopper and cricket. Till that, I would like to express my wishes to you all to learn this lesson well. Thank you, children. Good morning, children. Good morning, children. I'd like to welcome you to the second part of this video class. In the second part, you are going to be discussed with a poem on the grasshopper and cricket. Grasshopper and cricket. So in the second part, we are going to start with the poem. This poem was entitled as On the Grasshopper and Cricket. Actually, do you know, children, this poem is a fine piece of Petrarchian sonnet, which was done by the famous poet John Keats. This poem was actually written by him in December 1816. This poem was inspired by the beauty of nature. You know that many of the poets like to write poems on the beauty of the nature. They want to have the natural beauty as a theme of their poem. Especially the most common them among are the romantic poets. They want to write poems on natural beauty and beauty of the nature. In this poem has been formed in such a way, it's a kind of a sonnet. You know that sonnet is a kind of a poem consisting of 14 lines. In sonnet also we have two types. In one type of sonnet, two lines are joined together just like a pair of lines. There you can have 7 couplets. So 7 into 2, 14 lines. In another sonnet that is called a Petrarchian sonnet, there you can see first 8 lines may form a paragraph and the remaining 6 lines form another paragraph. So in this way also, the first 8 lines of the poem is generally called active and the remaining 6 lines of the poem is also called a sestet. Okay, fine. In this poem, what's the theme of the poem? The poet describes the beauty of the nature. You like to watch the beauty of the nature, you like to read the poems on the beauty of the nature. Here the poet takes, he is also a romantic poet, poetry of the earth. That is the theme of this poem. What is the poem of the earth? Does the earth have any poem of its own? Yeah, of course. The earth sings songs, the earth composes many poems. The poetry or the poem of the earth is never ending, it never dies, so it is omnipresent, the music. So the poet says the poetry of the earth is ceasing never, it never comes to an end. It is ever heard by the people, it is ever sung by the earth. The earth keeps singing the poem, the earth keeps singing the poetry, expressing its beauty, welcoming the attention of the people. So if you really have the mind to hear the words of the poem of the nature, you can hear, you can feel it. And the poetry of the earth so never comes to an end, it is ever heard by the people. So to stress the same, to emphasize the very idea, that is, there is no end for the poetry of the earth. It is always sung by the nature, it is always heard by the people of the earth. That was the main theme of this poem. You know that John Keats is a very famous poet. He has written many good poems on many good topics, but most of the poems of John Keats have the nature as their theme. So in this poem also, this is a kind of a sonnet, as I told you already. The sonnet opens with the poet asserting that the poetry of earth, the voice of nature is always living. So it is omnipresent. You know that God is omnipresent, God is omnipotent. Have you ever heard these words, children? Yeah. Omnipresent means it is present everywhere. Omnipotent means one who has more power. That's called omnipotent. Usually God is called as omnipotent. His divine quality is present everywhere. That is called God is omnipresent. So the voice of earth is ever living. It is admired by the people all the time. So the poet repeats the main theme of the sonnet, that the voice of earth never comes to an end. So the poet repeats the same in the beginning of the first 8 lines, that is active, and the beginning of the next 6 lines, that is in the sestet. So Keats has introduced to how he expressed that the poetry of the earth never dies, it is ever heard by the people. Okay, children, let me give a sum up of the introduction. So the main theme of this poem is the poetry of the earth is always sung by the nature. The earth sings songs, the sweet voice of the earth is always heard, the sweet melodious music. Yeah, of course. So music of nature, that is called music of nature, is omnipresent. It is always heard. The two opening lines of the first 8 lines of the paragraph and the first line of the next 6 lines of the second paragraph said, the poet has a strong opinion. He is assuring that the poetry of the earth is ceasing never. So he says, to give life to his statement, the poet introduces two small insect creatures, that is the grasshopper and the cricket. The grasshopper and the cricket, as the title of the poem suggests. Why he introduces these two creatures? To represent the vitality and joyous mood of nature. Let me write the words on the board. See. So the poet he strongly believes that the poetry of the earth never ends. This is the theme. The music of nature never ends. It is omnipresent. So to represent these, the first line, the introductory line of the poem begins with that the poet begins the sonnet with the line, the voice of nature is always living. Yeah, the voice of nature is always living. There is no end for it. So, for to assure, to give life to his statement, the poet introduced two small creatures, that is the grasshopper. That is a title, grasshopper and cricket. Why he introduces these two creatures here? I will show you the pictures of these two creatures. See, the grasshopper. So it is symbolically, or it represents the beautiful summer. So you can find this grasshopper, the activeness and busyness of this grasshopper. It is so active and so busy during the summertime. Yeah, so small insects. You can find this grasshopper everywhere. And then see the another small creature which was introduced by the poet is cricket. This also you can find anywhere and everywhere. So these two small creatures represents nature. That's important. These grasshopper and the cricket, both the small insects and creatures represents the nature. How they represents the nature? Let me explain. See, the poet suggested that the grasshopper and the cricket, what they represents? They represents the nature, the song of the earth, the music of the earth, vitality, the quality. Nature has more power. You cannot just stop the power of the nature, vitality and joyous. Vitality and joyous and mood of nature. Mood of nature. Joyous. See, even in the hot summer and even in the biting cold winter, you can hear the song of the nature. You can hear the poetry of the earth. That is very important. Sometimes people may think that in the hot summer, no one can come out. It is very hot outside. So you cannot hear the song of the earth. People may think like that. But the poet says, no, even in the hot summer, you can hear the sweet voice of the earth in the form of grasshopper. I will explain. The sonnet is all about how the grasshopper and the cricket carry on with the endless song of the earth. These small insects, these small creatures, grasshopper and cricket, they just bear with, carry on with the endless song of the earth. The song of the earth is endless. And octet concentrates on the grasshopper's voice in summer. The first 8 line concentrates on the grasshopper's voice, especially in the summertime. The remaining 6 lines of this sonnet deals with the cricket's song in winter time. So the grasshopper represents the summer. They are the symbols of the summer. Symbolically it represents the summer time, and this cricket symbolically represents the winter season. Okay, so the nature, the song of the nature, the poetry of the earth carry on by these two creatures during different seasons. Here the grasshopper and the cricket, the poet used the grasshopper and the cricket as a symbol of the constant joyous mood of nature. Constant mood of the nature. So very important, children. The poet symbolizes the grasshopper. This grasshopper. The poet symbolizes the grasshopper as hot summer. Hot summer. It symbolizes hot summer, and cricket very cold winter. Cricket very cold winter. So the grasshopper symbolizes the hot summer and the cricket as very cold winter. So with this brief introduction, now let me explain the meaning of the first 8 lines, that is active. In the first 8 lines of the poem, what the poet wants to say: during the hot summer, it is very hot to go out. The sun is very hot. It is a sunny day. So the climate is very hot. So you feel slutty. You don't want to go out. At that time, everyone wants to hide. Everyone wants to find a shelter. All the singing birds became very tired during the summer time, and they want to take rest under the shady branches of trees. So the nature's song. But people may think, when the birds stop to chirp, when the insects stops to ring, when the birds fail to sing, the earth, the nature's song cannot be heard. People may think, but the poet says, no, it is not like that. The song of the earth is always heard. Even during the hot summer, when all the singing birds became tired, when they want to take rest under the cool shadow of the trees and the shady branches of the tree, the nature's song can still be heard. Still be heard. How? A voice which runs from hedge to hedge and around the freshly cut grasslands is the grasshopper's voice. Yeah. Even at the hot summer, when the sun is very hot, when the climate is very hot, grasshopper never wants to take rest. It travels from hedge to hedge, singing sweet songs. So the grasshopper sings tirelessly during this time, flying from one hedge to another hedge. So during the hot summer, all the singing birds naturally became tired and take rest under the shady branches. But even if they don't sing, the song of nature goes on. Here, we can still hear the voice of the grasshopper who runs from hedge to hedge. He keeps singing tirelessly, and when tired, it just takes rest beneath some weed. So when it feels tired, it just takes rest under some field. So what does the poet here wants to say? The poet stresses, see, the poetry of the earth, music of nature is always heard, even during the hot summer time. Yes, of course, the grasshopper, it has the luxury of taking over the duty of carrying on with the everlasting song of earth in summer, as he is never done with his delights. The grasshopper actually is a fun-loving and very cheerful during the summer time. It is a fun-loving and very cheerful in summer. He never takes rest. Even during the summertime, while other birds and insects are taking rest under the cool shadow of the branches, it keeps jumping, it keeps moving from hedge to hedge, singing sweet song and spreading out the sweet music. So the song of the earth, the poetry of the earth is always heard. It carries on the sweet song of the earth. So he takes rest under the pleasant weeds only when he is tired out with fun. So it is a fun loving creature and it is cheerful in summer. So in the first 8 lines the poet says, see, let me read out the lines. The poetry of the earth is never dead, it is always heard. When all the birds became so tired during the hot sun, when all hides in cooling trees under the shadow of the cooling trees, still you can hear your voice. That is the voice of the earth, the poetry of the earth, from hedge to hedge. Whose voice is it? It is the voice of the grasshopper. And this is the grasshopper voice. He takes the lead, he never fails to. It takes always to lead the voice of the earth, the poetry of the earth, even in the summer luxury. He has never done with his delight. It is a fun loving creature. For when he became tired, he wants to take rest at ease beneath some pleasant weed. So through these lines, what the poet wants to say, the poetry of the earth is always here. No one can stop it. It never ends. Endless song. It is always sung by the nature. So in one way, in one form or in another form. So majestically the grasshopper takes the lead. It makes the voice of the earth echoed even during the hot summer, while other insects, other singing birds fail to sing. It takes the leading role. So how the grasshopper carry on with the endless song of the earth. It made the song of the earth echoed everywhere and anywhere. So this grasshopper represents the summer. Okay, a grasshopper carries on the duty of singing everlasting song of nature. Okay children, could you follow me? During summer, he is a fun loving and cheerful creature and is never done with his delights. Okay, so summer gets over, next winter starts. No one could go out. During the winter it is so chill to go out, therefore everyone wants to lock themselves inside or behind the door. They want to sit, they want to take rest under the shelter of the home. And during the cold winter season also, the birds became very silent. You cannot find the birds, you cannot hear the songs of the birds during the heavy winter because it was so chill out. Heavy snow falling, you can have mist formed, frost formed. So there is utter silence as the frosty winter days. But the earth has its own way of expressing pleasure and joys. How during the cold winter season also the birds are silent. There is utter silence on the frosty winter days, no doubt. But the poet says the earth has its own way of expressing pleasure and joys. How the song of a cricket can be heard, which breaks the silence. Yeah, the silence of the winter season is broken by the sweet voice of the cricket. He sings from the stones, but not from the trees. He sings from the stones. His songs, the sweet voice of the cricket appears to be increasing the warmth every moment. People are able to hear it sitting in their homes, in their houses. However, the poet says that to a person who is half asleep, half awakening, it may appear to be a grasshopper song coming from the grassy hills. That is the poet wants to say. But actually it was not the voice of the grasshopper. Yes. So the second part of the poem, that is the remaining 6 lines, the poet wants to say the sweet voice of the cricket. During the winter season, no one would like to go out because it was very chill out. Everyone wants to confine themselves inside the house or home or in their dwelling places. They want to be inside the sheltering At the time, the birds became very silent. You can find silence is prevailing everywhere. You cannot hear any sound, but the voice of the earth made echoed by the sweet voice of the cricket. Where you can hear the voice of the cricket, it on the frosty winter days. But the earth has its own way of expressing pleasure and joy. So the song of a cricket can be heard, which breaks the silence. He sings from the stone. The poet says the sweet voice of the cricket increases the warmth of the people. They feel so better now when they hear the sweet voice of the cricket. Yeah, they feel so warm. So here sitting in their houses, they could hear the sweet voice of the cricket. So, however, the poet says that to a person who is half awakening, who is half asleep, it may appear to be a grasshopper song coming from the grassy hills. So, the poetry of the earth is ceasing never. The second introductory line of the second part of the poem also, the poet says that the song of the earth, the poetry of the earth will never comes to an end. On a lone winter evening, when the frost was falling, everyone could find the snow falling, frost has been formed, mist has been formed, no one would like to go out, and everywhere silence is prevailing. From the stone, thrilling voice one could hear, that is the song of the cricket. It increases the warmth. Everyone could sit and hear such a sweet voice inside their houses, and seems to one and random the people, those who are in drowsiness, half awakening, half sleepy, they thought that that was the voice of the grasshopper. Though they are too little insects, they take the big responsibility. You know that the poet says, though they are very small insects, they take the big responsibility. That's why the poet has used the personification on them. The personification. Here I would like to say the word. You know that personification. Normally non-living animals considered as living things. That is one device of the poetical device that's called a personification. Here the poets used that personification by capitalizing personification. Personification. How the poet used this poetical device? Personification, capitalizing. So he capitalizing the small insect. Personal pronouns like he and his. When the poet used this personal pronouns he and his, he personified them, because though they are very small insects, they have great responsibility. They made the voice of the earth echoed everywhere. When all the birds are faint with the hot sun and hide in cooling trees, a voice will run from hedge to hedge about the new morning meadows. So the mood of the poem is joyous. The poem seeks to celebrate the calls of the grasshopper and the cricket. Okay, fine. What the conclusion the poet wants to say? The poem teaches us that we shall be joyful and pleasant no matter what are the situations in our life. With this attitude, we can easily overcome all the obstacles in life. Be happy always. Try to face the problems. Don't get upset when problems overcomes you. Try to overcome the problems. Try to face the problems. So let me conclude this session. Here so many things are there in nature. The poet actually what to say, the poetry of the earth is never stopped. There is no end for the poetry of the earth. It is always sung by the nature. The sweet song of the nature is always heard and echoed everywhere and anywhere, and it is always heard by the people. To manifest that idea of that voice of the earth or the poetry of the earth is never ending. To give life to this idea, the poet in this poem has created two important small insects, that is the grasshopper and cricket. He manifests them. He symbolizes the grasshopper as a summer and cricket as a winter. Even during the summertime, when all other birds became silent, when all others became so tired, even when they failed to sing song, the grasshopper carry on the song of the nature. It made the nature's earth the nature's or the earth's song to be echoed by traveling from hedge to hedge. Even during the winter time, when everyone wants to go for dozing, everyone wants to become so silent, even to break such a silence, one could hear the sweet voice of the cricket. So they represent the summer as well as the winter. That's the things the poet has used, one of the important poetical device, the personification, and he capitalizing them by using the proper personal pronoun he and his. And more than that, one more thing, children, this is a form of a poem. This is called a sonnet. Sonnet is a kind of a poem consisting of 14 lines. As I told you already in the beginning, in the introductory lines of this poem, two kinds of sonnets are there. This is the second type, Petrarchian sonnet. Here the first 8 lines forms one idea, the remaining 6 lines forms another idea. Okay. So, in the words of the poet, I want to say the concluding remark, the poem teaches that we shall be joyful and pleasant no matter what are the situations in our life. With this attitude, we can easily overcome all the obstacles. Okay, one thing I want to say, children, try to admire the nature. You can get many things from nature. Okay, thank you, children. Have a nice day.